Okay, we're good to go.
Okay, before we get started, I would like to recognize Jimmy Seelacker. Today is his 50th work anniversary. I think that's an impressive feat. You're like, people nowadays, I think they change jobs so often. I don't think there are many people around who can reach 50 years in any job, especially if you have such a physical job like you have.
Right.
So,
Congratulations, Jimmy.
yeah,
Really.
I'm really happy to have you around. Actually, I will disclose my age. I'm 51 years old. You pretty much are on the job almost as long as I live. That's pretty cool. So, and we will do something more formal. I just wanted to recognize it today at the meeting, since today is the day. So thank you, Jimmy. And I hope you have many years to come with us.
You're on mute, Jimmy.
Still muted, Jim.
Try the space bar.
No, you're muted. Touch the left corner of the screen. Oh, there you go.
There
Go
you
ahead.
go.
But now, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we all recognize Jim in the office day too, more so the staff, I think, than me, but Allison and Annette in particular bought him donuts and things. So so congratulations too from us, Jim. The first committee we have is Public Works, coincidentally enough. So if Mr. Watkins is okay to start, we can get started with the manager's update if you want.
Yes, how about if we start with the manager's update?
Okay. I only have one item because the second one, we don't have an update from Three Rivers Wet Weather yet. But the sewer equipment update is a continuation from last month because I need three things from council, at least from this committee, if not from council. We own two pieces of equipment, as I mentioned, and what I need to know is the interest you're going to have in continuing the program, because we're going to need to replace the Vector truck probably sooner than we thought. We thought it might be a year or two. It's probably going to be a year now, I think. And Jim did get an estimate from A&H Equipment, who happens to be on the CoStars program, which is important because it means we don't have to bid. We can piggyback on the state bid. And their estimate right now is between $475,000 and $500,000 for a new truck. Now, I just want to backtrack for a second, well, a couple seconds, and say that the reason why we did this years ago was because we used to have to call out a company every time we needed to televise a line. And if somebody complained because they were getting backup in their basement or what have you, we had to act. We're required to act by the health department to do something. So we'd have to call somebody to come out. It meant we'd have people on overtime waiting for a truck to come from wherever. And so council finally decided it made sense to buy the equipment, and we went in with Wilkins Township on that. So we need to, among other things, consider the new truck. We need to consider whether you're going to continue that relationship with Wilkins, which shares that truck with us right now. And at the same time, the third thing is Wilkins has also asked in the process of considering a new vehicle, new sewer Vector, if they could also then also go back to piggybacking with us on their on the camera equipment. Right now, they have the old camera equipment we bought new a few years ago. So I need some direction from you, mainly because it all kind of ties together. And from what Jimmy's telling me, if we ordered the truck right now, it wouldn't be in for at least a year. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. So it's something we have to decide. The money that we spend on the truck would come from corrective action budget. That's what we usually do. And there is some funds to do that. But of course, 500,000, if that's what the final price ends up being, is a lot of money. The reason why A&H can't give us a definite number is because we don't at this time, we haven't at this time told them we want to order something. And so consequently, they can only give us what the current price is. It is subject to change. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that 500,000 will be split between us and Wilkins Township.
I
So it'll be-
assume, yeah, assuming you continue that program. The reason why I say it's an assumption is again, because we split with them on camera. That was our decision to split off and have our own camera truck. Marcus?
I'm in principle, I think it makes sense to share something like expensive like this, especially if we don't use it 40 hours a week anyway. But my question, maybe to go even further, does it make sense if we maybe even ask Churchill if they want to join us?
I'm thinking.
Or do you think it would be too much, 3 communities for 1 truck?
Jimmy, you would have to answer that. I don't know. Jim?
Yeah, it was for Jimmy.
Yeah, I think for 3 communities, it might be a little too much. Because I know from what Dave said, we're gonna end up getting back in and doing a lot more sewer work. And so it'd probably be better just to have the 2 towns in on it.
Okay, so
Question,
if the committee agrees, I think that's what we should do.
question, is there a grant possibility through either Alcoasn or the DEP that might help defray this because it's part of our corrective action?
None that we know of right now.
Okay, well, I'll do some digging.
Barb?
Mr. Morris, I have a question, please.
Yeah.
Not about the Vector truck price, though. I'm trying to understand the 2 pieces of equipment. So the camera truck, Wilkins has our old one, correct?
Yeah, they reimbursed us for it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then our truck, the camera equipment is new and should have a long life. Okay.
Mhm.
Now Wilkins has approached us about sharing camera equipment again.
Right.
Well, if they have a camera truck, why are we sharing a camera truck? Or
Because
why are we sharing the equipment again?
It's the old truck, old camera and old truck, and it's near the end of its life.
But that's Wilkins's, right?
That's
Yeah.
Wilkins is now, yes.
And we have
Okay.
a new one, so they want to not replace our old one they currently own because it's bad. Rather than buying a new one for them, they want to ask if we can share ours. So we would
Yes.
basically make some money, or we have to have them buy in, so we have to figure out the details.
Right. And the reason why I bring it up is that's something that you've never had me negotiate. It's always been a council negotiation with Wilkins board. So unless you change that, I need to know if you want to do that and if you want to open up discussion with them, unless you want to change it and have it work out at least preliminarily between myself and Rebecca Vargo.
I think initially you just
That would be good.
deal with her and then report back to us.
Okay,
Yeah,
I can do
I
that.
agree. I think the best thing to do would be for you and Rebecca to talk about what the options are and what makes the most sense. And I'll do some digging and see if there's any grant money available for this kind of a truck at this time.
I know
have
that,
another comment for Jimmy, just to explain to everyone, what's the difference between a camera truck and a Vector truck?
Okay, the camera truck is like it's a TV. It's a automatic robot that almost looks like a torpedo in a submarine, but it has wheels. And we put it in our sewer lines, and it has a motor, little motors in it, and it climbs up the sewer lines with a cable, and then it sends the pictures back into our camera truck on like 2 different screens. So we can video, like if somebody's having a problem now, they'll call up and say, hey, our sewer's backed up and we had a plumber out, and he says it's your line that's blocked. Well, what we do is we go and we stick our camera in and run it up. Sometimes we find that our line is blocked. Sometimes we find that it's our line's wide open and the plumber never made it all the way in there with their equipment, to open up the homeowner's line. The sewer vac truck right now is a combination unit. It has a motor on it in the front, which runs a reel, which has it carries approximately 1,000 gallons of water, and it shoots. It has a 600-foot hose. It's a 1-inch diameter hose, bigger than your garden hose, and we can put different nozzles on it, different cutters, and we send it up the line, and it works off of water pressure, and it can cut the roots out, or it can clean the sludge out, or it can clean debris. And then the other part of the truck has a holding tank for debris, and it has like a big suction arm tube on the front of it, and you can stick it down into the manholes, and you can clean out anything that you bring back in the sewer line and put it and suck it up into the truck, or your storm sewer inlets that collect all the rainwater. We use that suction part to suck out the catch basins, the storm sewer inlets of leaves and other debris, and it puts it into the tank in the back, and then you're able to dump and remove the debris out of it.
Thanks, that was very useful.
Just to conclude now, the reason why this is also important, of course, besides the length of time for the Vactor, is, as Jimmy just mentioned, we're going to probably have increased sewer inspection duties under the consent order in 2023. And what that, of course, means is more work for us. Now, two things about that. One, I have as a note here at the bottom of section A here on my report, and that's we're going to, after talking with Jimmy, we decided it makes sense to get a second crew member certified to run the camera. But as we get into 2023, you guys are going to have to decide what your policy is going to be on that kind of work, because we've had controversy in the past about this as to whether or not it should be normal work during the day or whether it should be work that's can also occur on a weekend on overtime. And that's gone back and forth. I don't necessarily want to discuss it now until we know when we have to start projects. But of course, that's something that that you folks have to decide, because that was a council decision. I don't remember, about 5 or 6 years ago, Jim, maybe even more. So we're going to need to know whether you want it to be regular duties. It's going to be an added duty. I don't know how that will stretch the crew out, but it would be an added duty if it's going to be just part of the 40 hours. If you're okay with it being overtime, which at different points in time, different councils have allowed it to be overtime, then that makes it a little bit simpler, but we can go into that further later. Just something to think about. I don't have anything else to report, Mr. Watkins, other than that, and I will talk to Rebecca as soon as I'm able to.
Yeah. David Montz of Three Rivers Wet Weather is prepared to come in January. He had a conflict for tonight's meeting, so he's on the calendar for the January meeting.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeMarco. Next, I believe we go on to the foreman's report.
Yeah, let Dave go first for the engineer's report.
All right. Mr. Golan, would you like to proceed?
Laura's going to give the report.
That's okay with
thank you.
everybody.
Hi, Laura.
All right, for the MS4 detention pond project, we approved an invoice for $160,719.80 of the $220,583 total for the construction items that have been completed so far. We're currently working through completion of the weir with Dragon Contracting. For the Ashley Court to Ardmore sanitary sewer, visual inspection showed problems with broken pipe, which will require replacement of pipe sections and lining of sections. This project is included in the 2023 corrective actions budget.
Ms. Brandt Hoover, can I ask a question there, please?
Sure.
Just finishing up my first year here, so please forgive me. I just would like to get a little background on this, please, if I could. I've seen the Ashley Court pretty much listed all year. And I wonder, we had received an email earlier about grants for storage, and I believe Robert Ziskow, is that from your company, was mentioning he would look into that. Would this be something that perhaps would be considered under that grant? It just seems like we're always having trouble here in this location.
There are a few different grants that we might be able to apply for. I'm trying to think with the small water grant we couldn't do right now, right? No, are you, Dave, were you saying yes or no to the small water grant?
Can't hear you, Dave.
Uh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
It would be eligible for a PA small water and sewer grant. Those are 85% grants. So if you want, we could put together an application for that. They're due, believe December 18th,
I think the 21st, yeah.
21st. So we
Yeah.
would have time before your next meeting to get the resolution together. And if the committee wants us to go ahead with that grant application, we could do that. I was just looking while she was giving the report too, to see there's another grant program called H2O.
Yeah.
And I was looking at both the small water and sewer and the H2O grants to see if either one would the Vector truck would qualify for that, and it does not appear that it would. It says only equipment is permanently installed equipment, like a pump station or something like that. But a mobile equipment is not listed as eligible for either project. But it would be eligible for this Ashley Court project. So we could put together an application for that, have it ready for the next council meeting.
That's good.
Yeah, I didn't think that the truck would be included in those, but that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll talk.
That's not an eligible
That's an
project.
85% match. You said that's an 85% grant, so it would be a
It's an
50%.
85% grant with a 15% local match.
Okay, right.
All right, I'll talk to Bob about getting that started then, because he does a lot of those. Okay. Can I keep going?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, it's okay. For the 2022 paving, that has been completed, or at least 99% completed. I know they're going to come back and make a couple minor repairs, I believe. The Watt Lane head wall.
I have a quick question about that. We had
Yeah.
some resident complaining about cleanup or lack of cleanup on Woodside. Is that rectified?
Yeah, that was taken care of.
Okay.
Okay. The Watt Lane head wall, this project is in the design phase and will be advertised for bid once the DEP permit for work in a stream has been received.
Could I ask a question there, please?
Mhm.
What is the permit for? What are we trying to get? What are they trying to get?
It's a stream enclosure permit. It's a stream. Anytime you work in a stream, you have to get a permit from DEP. And what this involves is cleaning out brush along the edges of the stream and streamlining the what they call the riparian barrier along the edge of the stream, and then building a new head wall where the stream goes underground to go under Watt Lane. It's the stream that comes down from the high school along that walking trail.
Mhm. Okay, so they went in and said, we need to do these things. Is that it?
Well, Jimmy brought this to our attention that the head wall there is failing, and that a lot of brush washes down there from the edges of the stream and clogs the end of the pipe, and it's a maintenance issue for Public Works. This would include a trash rack to catch any debris that's easily cleaned by Public Works. It would also include construction of that road that Mr. Tomasic was pushing for alongside the walking trail, which at the same time would eliminate a problem with the walking trail not being ADA accessible because there's steps. This would eliminate that and create a milled asphalt roadway, actually, which would replace the walking trail where the steps is. So it would make that walking trail ADA compliant, although that's not the main purpose of the project. But that would give us access to the construction site, and then we would put in the stream bank, reestablish the stream banks so that brush and debris doesn't wash down there as easily, and put a new head wall in. And I believe, Jim, wasn't there some pipe at the beginning? Some of the pipe at the very end, the beginning of the culvert is in bad shape too, but it wasn't very much, maybe 50 feet. But anytime you do work in a stream, you have to get a permit from DEP.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question also on that project. Is this something that is exacerbated by the paving on the high school? For
No.
all that big parking lot draining in there, it isn't
No.
surge of storm water there? Okay,
That's where their water goes,
yeah,
but I don't think it's aggravated by that. It could be in times of very heavy rain.
because I
could be.
know,
It also takes-
I walk over there quite often and it's often really rushing, to the point where it erodes the supporting earthworks around that culvert, which is why it undermines and collapses all the time. So maybe
Yes.
what we need is some amelioration of the storm flow off of that parking lot into the drainage area so that we can retard that somehow, possibly with plantings or something like that, that would
Right.
divert that water into the woods area more instead of right into that culvert.
Right.
I think it'd be worth looking at that a little bit because we keep having to, mess with this particular location and it doesn't really seem to be getting better. It's just the constant keeping one ahead of the next storm.
Yeah, that is part of the project to rebuild the stream banks so they don't erode. Stop it. He doesn't bark until I start talking. I'm sorry. No more treats. But the problem is the high school was built at a time where they weren't required to put in stormwater retention. So we can't force them to do that at this point.
Well, they're supposed to be doing, water conservation practices and they just repaved that whole blasted parking lot. I mean, and they didn't do anything to, put slopes or bioswales or anything in there, and they could have, because they just finished repaving the whole thing.
Right. Jim?
Yeah, when they redid that, Patty, they put some holding tanks in up there.
Oh, they did.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I
Let
wasn't
me-
aware of that.
Yeah, I have a question. So how is this project different than what the culvert work that's being done on Ardmore? So, for instance, you have to get a DEP permit. So if you did nothing, what would DEP do if that stream became blocked?
They would flood and wash out
So,
Watt Lane. What else would it affect, Jimmy?
Yeah, we had a real bad storm, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, and it overflowed and it ripped part of that walkway out and whooshed debris all the way down onto Fillmore Road. So, if it would get,
I guess my question is, we're responsible for that stream because,
It's on our property.
On our property.
okay, but
PennDOT
you
owns
can't do
Ardmore.
anything. But
We
you
have a
can't do
right of way
anything.
through. We have a right of way through there for the walking trail.
Okay,
Anyone that has property where the stream is responsible for the stream in that part of the street. But
Okay,
we
so
own that part because there's a walking trail there.
okay, so we own that part, but we can't do anything unless DEP tells us we can do it.
Right, that's
Makes
correct. And we
absolutely
also,
no sense.
council recently purchased the vacant lots on Braddock Road, which are also where this runs. That was just a year or two ago. That was in order to build the roadway that I was referring to earlier.
When did we apply for the permit?
I'm not sure,
Just a ballpark figure. I just need
about 6 months ago. These normally take anywhere from 9 months to a year.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Next item. The last item that I have is the Fillmore Road sidewalk area slide. PA Soil and Rock has issued their final report on the movement of the sidewalk along the eastern side of Fillmore Drive opposite of St. Maurice Church. Their report concludes that the slide is a result of placement of fill over weak landslide prone soil when the road was constructed, which was exacerbated by the extremely wet period of 2017 through 2018. The report recommends construction of an engineered fill embankment, in essence, excavation and regrading the hillside below the sidewalk, replacing the fill with a lighter, properly graded soil. The estimated cost of this work is $250,000.
I did speak to Pennsylvania Soil and Rock, and the question I had was, if we do nothing and just fix the sidewalk where it is misaligned, what's the chances of it sliding again? And of course, you can't predict the future. If we have another wet year like 17 and 18, that could happen. But the fact is that, and Jimmy, I think you can, with your many years of experience here, know that sidewalk didn't move much, or if at all, before 2017 and 18. So that fill's been there since the road was built. That was built when? 50 years, 60 years ago? At
Yeah,
least.
I think that was back in the early 60s. Dan Construction put that.
Yeah, so, I mean, it lasted that many years without sliding. And we just had 2 wet years and it slid. So it's a gamble. It's a throw of the dice. If you want to fix it has not affected the road at this point, just the sidewalk. So if we replace the sidewalk, and he cautioned, if we do that, to not put any additional fill beside the sidewalk, to let it just be at a sharp drop off, because if you add any more fill on it, you could aggravate the slide. But I think it would be a safe bet I mean, it's a lot of expenditure just to fix that before we pave the road. That would take up half of our paving budget, or more than half. So I think it would be a calculated risk that the borough could take, that it's not going to slide anymore. We could redo the road and include in that project redoing the sidewalk that was affected there. And I would feel comfortable doing that it's not going to negatively affect anything in the future.
Makes sense to me. How old is Fillmore Road? Like, how many years do we have left? Roughly. I think it's fairly recently paved, huh?
How many years? What?
How many years do we have left on Fillmore Road before we have to repave it and redo it? I think Jimmy.
That's been on the list for the last, Jim and I wanted to put it on the list the last couple of years. We wanted to get this problem taken care of first,
Okay.
Jimmy had something to say?
or at least looked at.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, yeah, we're just doing, actually, we're gonna pave, Marcus. We want to go a little bit, I don't know how many feet above Forest Glen Drive, from there down to Ardmore needs paved. The rest of it has been repaved going up, towards the pike in different sections in different years. But
Yeah,
that
it's
section
in
there.
pretty bad shape.
All right.
That's everything that I have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jimmy, do you want to give your report now, or?
Yeah, sure. I have the list of projects for December. Just real quick, I'm sure all of you have heard our large leaf truck has broken down. We had a hydraulic valve failure. We have not been successful to purchase a new part for it. The truck's about 8 years old now. The manufacturer of the truck has switched to a different valve body. It's called a hydraulic valve body. It's like the brains of the truck for working the whole hydraulic system on it. We took it and tried to get it welded. It wasn't successful. We're actually going to go back to another place that thought they might be able to build us one, and it didn't work out. We have a new part on order. It's probably not going to be here till February. We may try to put it back together, because there's certain places I don't think we're going to be successful, because it was leaking oil when we took it out. And it was starting to affect the operation of the truck too. But we had a backup tow behind leaf collection unit trailer mounted that we had to put 2 metal boxes on our dump truck. Some of you have probably seen that. It's very labor intensive. It takes 5 people out of my crew to pick the leaves that way, where the leaf truck had 1 person. Unless we were on like a street with a cul-de-sac or something, then we would send some help with some guys with some backpack blowers. But we're progressing very well. Our goal is to try to get everything up before it snows real bad. So we're plugging away here. I'm getting ready to start posting some areas where we have to get cars moved off the streets so we can go in and clean up. That will be happening next week. We're going to put some notices out tomorrow for next week. So I just hope the residents, I've been talking to a lot of them. I tell them to be patient and watch for the signs on the telephone poles in the cars.
Just a note, if I could, of two notes, really. We are trying to put information out on Savvy Citizen about this one we know for sure. You may have seen some of what we put out there already. It's been generic, unfortunately, because of this problem. The second thing is this leaf truck was one that we were able to purchase with a grant through DEP. They paid 90%, we paid 10. If that grant ever comes back, you may want to consider getting another truck. It wouldn't hurt to have two. And when the other one does go, that way you'd have another one, considering you're only paying 10%. But at the time, this time, as far as I know, they're not doing that. They've suspended that. We're keeping an eye out for it though, just in case, so we can bring it up with you again.
Okay, if anybody has any questions about the list of projects for December, I put on this report the projects that we've completed. So if anybody has any questions on those, please ask me. Other than that, I really don't have anything.
I had a question. You note that you picked up about 15 dead deer on various roads. That's on roadways only? It's not on property, is that correct?
No, a lot of times, sometimes they'll get hit on the Ardmore, or the police will get a call where they have an injured deer in their yard and they have to go shoot it.
Oh,
So we also would pick those up.
and where do they go?
We give them to the garbage men,
Okay,
or like we have the garbage dumpster behind the garage. If they're not in that day, then we put it in the dumpster, and then when they come to dump the dumpster, then they take it.
okay. Now in Anchorage, they send all those to the food bank. Sorry.
Yeah, but you've got to do that right
I
after
know,
they get killed. And
I'm just
usually
telling you.
they've been there a while when we pick them up, a little while anyway.
If that's everything you have, Jimmy, Public Works is completed. We can move on to the next committee.
Mr. Watkins,
Yes, sir.
as the chair, I just wanted to ask you, have you considered whether it is necessary to have engineering and public works foremen appear in person to provide their reports? Now, I'm not saying it might not be helpful on some meetings, but I would suggest attendance be voluntary. And if there's a need for specific information or clarification on a submitted report, that could be resolved prior to the meeting. I just put that out there for consideration.
We'll take that into consideration, Mr. BOK. Does anyone else have any other additional questions?
No.
Okay, thank you very, very much.
Okay, give me a second and we'll go to Borough Property. As soon as I find it. Okay, I'm fine, Ms. Martin, if you're okay for me to start.
Yes, please, Mr. Morris. Thank
Okay,
you.
I have several items. I'm just going to really informational items rather than anything, unless you have a question about any one of them. Iron Mountain, we continue to sort through and code boxes. It is time consuming. We have sent several dozen off to Iron Mountain already that we finished with. We're starting on the next, the second half of that now. We've also sent, I didn't mention this in here, but we had a number of dozens of boxes for records that could be shredded and disposed of. Those were also taken care of too within the last several weeks. So we're making progress on that. One of the biggest areas of stuff that's still over in the basement that I'm bringing over when I can are the plans that are there. There are many, many, many plans. And my understanding is that any plan must be kept if the development or building or what have you is still there, even if it's a slightly different use. So of course, they're all rolled up. We have to open them up, look through them, see what they are. I've already started that. I've been working on that myself. Annette's been doing a lot of the other stuff, but just, you know, we are making progress. It's just a little bit slow in some cases, depending. So I just want to mention that it continues to go on and we're making progress. My outstanding item list, just a reminder, we are looking for someone to fill a recreation board vacancy. If anybody has any nominees or any people that might be interested, we will be advertising all vacancies shortly in the newspaper. And also I'll be sending a copy of that to the website. And of course it will go on Savvy Citizen once we're ready to go. And but I'll talk more about that later under a different committee. The bus accident, we did submit that to the insurance company. That's where the pole was damaged from the archway. We're waiting to get some information. It's going to probably be slow, but we're waiting to get some information. They're going to have to talk to the bus, our insurance company will have to talk to the bus company's insurance company, of course, and we'll see how that goes. We'll let you know as soon as we know anything. It's just not much has happened yet. A minor budget issue I'm going to report on at Finance Committee next week, but just want to make a note here since it's a borough property. Since we have not yet sold the senior center, I'm going to return a few dollars back to that budget because we're going to need to maintain the heating and et cetera there for a while, and maybe some minor maintenance depending on what happens there. Hopefully we'll be able to prevent any maintenance issues, but in any case, I plan on returning some dollars to that. It won't be significant, but I just wanted you to know that. And then finally, the Centennial Clock, I agreed with Lumicron. I would follow up after Thanksgiving because some of those people that were away as well. I know Ms. Martin has, I think, met with Jimmy about locations. And so I just need to sit down with you guys and talk about specifically where, so I can talk to Lumicron within the next week or so, and we can get that set up to get started. I don't have anything else to report unless you have a question for me.
Well, I'll be at the Borough Building tomorrow, Mr. Morris. If you wanted to, we could talk real quick about that Centennial Clock placement, okay?
Great, yeah.
And thank you for your diligence on those records. I really think it's a great job.
Well, Annette's doing terrific. So I really want to thank her, to a lesser extent, Ann and Allison, but Annette is just amazing. She's doing great with that.
That's for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Brandhoover or Mr. Gilliland, the engineer report, please.
I'll go ahead and do that. The first item I have is the pickleball court. The line painting was completed on November 15th.
Just a question there, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that looked real nice. We saw the picture. Were there going to be posts and nets too? Wasn't that right? Or do you know about that, Jim?
Tim's
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, we have not received all the net items yet. Some
Okay.
of them are on back order. So we've got about half of this. We're waiting for the upright posts yet.
Thank you very much. Mhm.
Okay, for the blight remediation grant, on May 25th, 2021, a $19,800 grant was approved to demolish 21 Marion Avenue. The grant expires June 2023. The address to be demolished cannot be changed. I would suggest that we wait and see what happens with the property, I guess over the next 6 months or so. For the bird sanctuary observation deck, George Hunt Construction has been notified by certified mail of the bond requirement and problems with his insurance certificate, requiring a response by November 28th, 2022, or else the contract award would be rescinded. To date, nothing has been received. The committee and or council can now decide whether to terminate the contract or continue to work with him.
We did get an insurance certificate, but it still doesn't list any workman's comp coverage. He doesn't have workman's comp coverage.
Okay.
And we haven't received the bonds and we haven't received the signed contracts back. I don't know why it's so hard to sign your name on a contract and send it back. He's had it for over a month.
Patty, you had your hand up,
I
please.
have a concern. This project started out as a fairly simple concept. And first of all, we've had 3 or 4 price escalations, partly due to the COVID supply chain limitations, partly due to design changes. And we're now running into contract issues that seem to be getting more complex rather than less. I would like to see if we can't take this off the table for a while and reconfigure our thinking about how to use this bird sanctuary space effectively. It may be that putting what we envisioned here as a simple platform for viewing turns out to be more complicated than initially thought because of the terrain and the engineering challenges of building on that steep of a slope, which is, very difficult to deal with. And I don't know if it would be a good idea to rethink our approach to this piece of space. $25,000 and upward of that is getting to be a significant expenditure for something like that. Just a concern that I have.
Mr. Bioki, I'm sorry, his hand was up first, Marcus.
Yeah, I don't think the issue is terrain because the slope, the most that they're going to go back is maybe 5 or 6 feet back into the sanctuary. I think the issue is finding people that are willing to actually do the work. And one of my recommendations is for us to take a very serious look at why we're having that kind of difficulty. And then, doing an analysis and then going back and getting bids again. So
Right. Well, that's basically what I'm saying, Angelo, is
Yeah,
we
but-
need to
but-
rethink the whole thing a little
But
bit.
rescinding the whole thing doesn't make sense. We've been,
So rescind this particular contract.
the contract, yes, but not the project.
Marcus?
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. I like the project, but we should probably do some more digging, kind of figuratively, how we can do it, but I think we should still pursue it. We just need to be patient as well. There's no need to rush things. And if that contractor is bad, we should not try him out either. So I agree that we just terminate that contract and do our homework, but keep that 20,000 on the budget for that purpose, and don't change it.
Mr. Burley, did you have any comments? Okay, well then, Mr. Morris?
So we're going to terminate the contract. Is Dave going to contact Mr. Hunt and do that officially? Do I need to do it? He's been calling me too, but I will not talk to him until I hear what you folks are doing. So,
Yeah, it
Well-
sounds like we're terminating it and we'll have to rescind it like we did,
so Dave, will you be sending that
Yeah,
officially
we'll
out?
take care of that.
Okay, just so I know. I'm not going to talk to him. He's called again, and I'm still not going to talk to him. Then I'm just going to let you do that if that's okay, unless somebody wants me to. I'll otherwise I don't want to complicate things. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll notify him because I'm the one that sent him the letter that said that we would rescind if we didn't receive the information. And so I'll just follow up with that and say, we didn't receive the information, so therefore your contract was terminated. And just to refresh everybody's memory, this went out to bid twice and we got no bids on that. And then we put it out for proposals. We sent it to 12 contractors. We got one who did the same thing and didn't sign a contract. We sent it out again to 12 contractors, removing the one that reneged on the first contract, and still didn't get any quotes. I think I don't know whether it's the site or whether it's the nature of the work or the nature of business these days, that contractors are busy, what the problem is. But I agree that it is a worthy project and maybe we should just sit back and try again at a later date.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
For this and every other contract, let's just a reminder, we need to be very careful about how we do this, especially when it is over the bid limit, because you can get into a lot of trouble if you don't do it the right way. Or if somebody, for example, would approach one of you, for whatever the contract might be, whether it's this or something else, and you try to handle it on your own, it would not be a good thing necessarily, unless council has specifically given you direction to be the one to handle it, only because I've seen before where the Ethics Commission has investigated things like this when it appears at least that somebody, a staff member or an elected official, whatever, is trying to circumvent bidding requirements. The stupidest little thing could make it look like you're doing that. So just be careful and cautious, whether it's this or any other bid. Thank you.
Okay. Ready to move on then. Thank you.
Yeah, from my experience, anyone who's not going to sign the contract right away is already off to a bad start. Going to end up not happy. But all right, my last item is the Westinghouse Lodge. The asbestos remediation has been completed. The basement doors and a trench drain have been ordered and should be delivered in the next 2 weeks. Waterproofing was awarded to AquaGuard Systems for $13,670. However, they submitted an updated quote to add the bond cost, and the revised total is now $14,502.
I have a question on that. So if we sent out specifications, you're shaking your head, Dave. Did you know what I was going to ask?
Yeah, that's not what we did.
Okay.
We just called up 3 firms because of the price being under 20,000. We don't have to advertise for bids. We just called 3 reputable contractors based on reviews online and word of mouth, and asked 3 contractors to give us proposals. Each of the 3, well, 2 of the 3 came to the site and examined it and then submitted fairly similar proposals on how to fix the problem. At that time, Jim and I met with one company, and Jim by himself met with the other. At that time, neither one was told that they needed bonds to submit performance or maintenance or labor material bonds as part of the project.
I see.
So they were not told. Now, with the bird deck, everybody was told in advance that they needed bonds. That was part of the proposal. If they had the specifications, which the guy that got the contract this last time did not have the specifications, he was not on our mailing list. But the ones that got the specifications knew that in advance that there was a bond required. This one, since it was a smaller project, no one mentioned that to them. So if council wants the bonds on this, then it would be an extra, I'm not sure how many, $832
$832 or something.
Yeah, if we want the bonds.
I definitely want a bond on that project. I mean, this is significant, and it's, getting the water cleared up in the basement of the Westinghouse Lodge is a really high priority, I think, both for mold prevention and also for just water damage inside the building.
Yeah, there would be a maintenance bond or a guarantee as part of the job too.
Good.
And that was explained that we need that. That definitely wanted that. If it doesn't work, we want to be able to come back and say, hey, it didn't work. Especially
Okay, I just
their
wanted to know that.
proposal.
Now, do we have to go back and say we have a new price at the business meeting?
I can draw up a change order to add that amount in. I think that would be the way, since we already awarded it at
Yeah.
the last meeting. I can do a simple change order to add the cost of the bonding, and we can do that at the next meeting.
Thank you very much.
I think we just have to report it at the next meeting. We don't have to have a motion or anything like that. It's only $800.
I think
That's
we
good.
already voted on the project.
We did, yeah.
I mean, we just have it in your report. We don't have to do a motion or anything like that.
Okay, thank you.
That's everything I have.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thielacker, the foreman's report, please.
Yeah, the Ardmore planters, I've been talking to Barb here. We ordered the electrical underground boxes. They're on back order. They're supposed to get shipped towards the end of January, maybe first part of February. So depending on the weather, though, that's right in the middle of the harshest part of winter. So we might not be able to do anything until, the weather gets
Spring or something.
yeah, early, spring. The second thing, item number 2, I had called a couple roofing companies and they didn't call me back, but I did call a couple other roofing companies with some different names, and I've talked to 2 of them already, and I'm gonna call a third one, but they're gonna get a hold of me and come out and give us a price on the gutters and that soffit and fascia that was damaged by that truck fire that we had.
Oh, that's good. I just had another question. I noticed that the Avenue L playground, it's not appearing anymore. I know we were waiting for parts. Did they come in? Wasn't there
No.
playground equipment or something we're waiting on?
Yes, that's going to be a complete new large playground area to take the place of the one that's there. But it also went on back order, and it's supposed to get shipped like after the first of the year sometime, like towards the middle of January. The manufacturer said to us.
Okay, and I just had a question. The flivver door replacement, was that finished?
No, because of, I would have had it done, but because as I mentioned, it's taken 5 of our guys here for picking up leaves now.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we haven't done that yet. So
okay.
I want to get my leaf program completed here, first. So.
Oh, sure. I'm just double checking because, it's the end of the year and I had to ask everybody else, Jim. So, I'm asking you too. Okay. And then the new dumpster for over there. Remember that pile of junk that was on the ground and we wanted to get a new dumpster for it? Did you have a chance to look into that?
Well, we cleaned everything up over there. Well, there's a couple cement manhole caps, but yeah, we cleaned everything up. And they notified the garbage people for a new recycling dumpster with a locking lid over by the fuel tank. But the other dumpster, remember you and I talked, we can't get it with lids at all.
Right, you
Because
had mentioned that.
Yeah, so, but it doesn't have any holes in it or anything, so it's still, but we did clean the whole area up. There, like I said, there's a couple cement casting items that we had to unload off a truck, but all the garbage is cleaned up and everything. I think it looks pretty good,
Well, okay, but it's just if that practice is still necessary to have garbage on the ground, we need to get a new dumpster. An additional dumpster, I mean, for use back there.
Yeah, I think it's been okay right now, Barb. I think we're all right. I don't think we need a second one yet. And they are dumping it twice a week, so.
And the last thing I just wanted to make sure we have on our list, because there was some confusion. It's the concrete work that's going to happen for the borough building. We were talking about, instead of having those grassy strips, we're going to be looking at that for next year too. Is that correct?
Yes, that's on our list for springtime here,
Thank you very much. Thanks. Did anyone have any questions from the committee?
We're good.
Okay, thank you. Let's see then. Then moving on to the committee business report. Was that from you, Mr. Morris? About getting security and locks?
Yeah, myself and Mr. President Erbaldinger were discussing that. That was due to the fact that we had one person essentially assigned to opening it up for rentals and other events, and we were paying them a lot of money. And that had been a practice established years ago by council, and that's why we were doing it. But we're looking, I have a contact in with SSA. We're just trying to get a date when we can meet. And I have a number of different security related issues I have to talk to them about. We're going to investigate. I want them to investigate and see what they might be able to do there. So we might automate that either by having a keypad of some kind or what have you, so we don't have to give people keys to unlock. I think President Erbaldinger right now has established that we will, when someone is renting the pool, rather than have somebody come out, we'll give them a key so they can unlock and then just return the key when they're done. Correct, Mr. Erbaldinger?
No, little difference. Like we have some people like the dog trainer, yoga, those kind of people. Like pretty much our people, they will get the key. But if there's a party, like Kelly, the woman who's cleaning the pool, she will basically open and close for like renters. We don't want to give people, like outside people, the key, just the dog trainer, yoga trainer, whatever people we have like for the classes.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, we want to get a lock with keypad and all that stuff, internet capable as soon as we can, but there's no rush. We have a plan B.
Okay, thank you. For the pool sign electrical work, I believe we're waiting for Duquesne Light to come and turn the electricity back on. Do we have an update with that?
I called yesterday to the fellow that's my contact for Duquesne Light. He
Mhm.
submitted the work request to have the electric turned back on to be hooked up on November 18th. But he did tell me because of vacations and the holiday, it may take a little time. So I check it all the time. So, but they haven't done anything yet.
Okay, thank you. That ends my report unless someone else has anything to say.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Okay, let me bring up public safety on my screen here, and I'll be ready in a few seconds as soon as I can find it. Whoops. Sorry about that. I know I have it. Okay, I'm good, Mr. Bilkey, if you're okay with me starting the manager's
Yes.
update.
Manager's update.
Okay, just one item. This is an annual event that happens. We ask Mock and Hop to review our pension contributions for police to determine whether or not the police would be required to contribute toward their pension fund and what the amount would be. And because it is an attorney, I'm sorry, not attorney, a confidential document, I emailed that to you separately rather than put it on this agenda. But essentially, Mock and Hop, if you read the letter I sent to you, does recommend that the contribution from the officers should continue at 5%. So what we typically do with that is there's a resolution that would be on your agenda for December 14th that you would consider and hopefully approve with that requirement. So unless you have a question, that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Chief's report. I see we have Chief Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one thing to report this evening, and that is that coming in January, we'll be having our first test for police officers. We are going to run this through the COG, as there are other departments who are interested in doing this at the same time. That will reduce our costs substantially when it comes to advertising. And again, this is something that we try to do as often as we can. Secondly, again, we have to have the ability to have the Allegheny County Police Academy available to us for the physical agility test, which they've agreed to. So sometime probably in maybe the first or second week of January, it looks like we'll be able to have that test and then have the written test either at the same day or right after that. So we can move on with the process of getting this thing going, where we may have to replace some people here in the very near future as we have the possibility of a few retiring come next year. That's all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Assistant Chief Thielacker.
He's not there.
Yeah, the ladder truck that you folks purchased for us is in service now. We're waiting delivery back from Glick Fire Equipment for the rescue pumper that we purchased. And Ricky doesn't really have a report because he had a death in his family. And so he's been down in Florida for almost 2 weeks here. He's on his way home now. So I'm sure he'll have a report for you for next month.
Okay. Thank you. In the interest of being consistent, I'm suggesting to my other committee members that the attendance by the chiefs be voluntary. If there's a need for specific information or clarification, that could be submitted on a report and resolved prior to the meeting. So again, I'd like our committee members to consider that for future meetings.
I think that's a fine idea.
Thank you. Since the chiefs are here, would you like to comment on that? Either.
Doesn't
Go ahead,
matter to
Jim.
me.
No, I on this platform, it's much more convenient for probably at least me to be on as you need me. So I don't mind being here.
Okay. So we may look at it as on a voluntary basis, but Mr. Erbaldinger.
I would change it slightly, not voluntary basis, as needed basis, because like Chief Williams tonight, he didn't have any really thing major to report. But I think some nights there is maybe some major issues in public works or during. It should be on as needed, not necessarily voluntary basis.
Thank
But I
you.
agree,
That's
some nights
a-
there's nothing really to talk about or report,
Yeah,
and it could be just a written report.
thank you. That's an important distinction. Thank you.
Yeah, I
Ms.
just want to
Marco.
say that I find it helpful to know our providers and our service people. I miss having Chief Bastandrea here. He hasn't been here for quite a long time. And I feel like it's important for the council to have a connection to these agents of ours out in the community for emergency service. So I would definitely leave it, when we need to have them, they absolutely should report. It is a big progress that we get written reports, because if you recall back a few years, that was quite an elaborate discussion about what was reported and what happens to it and, all of that. And I really appreciate, especially the fire department and the police department reports are very helpful. The EMS report is also. So we get an idea of what's going on. But I think it's helpful to have these personnel here to answer questions about things that are going on in the community. We really need to have it. I find it especially helpful at our public meetings. When we're
Well-
at the business meetings, I find that very helpful when they can come there.
Yeah, thank you. The written reports are definitely
Yeah.
important. I think being here on an as-needed basis is important.
Yeah, but
And they also do attend at the council meeting. So there's an opportunity there as well to have questions asked or answered. Okay, anyone else? Okay. We'll move on. We have a number of things to cover here, so I'll try to go through them fairly quickly. The Deer survey results. The Deer survey closed October 24th. The results were shared with council on October 26th. Now, I know we had a discussion that took place during the November meeting, and I believe we were in agreement to publish the results on the website and add a notification to Savvy Citizen. To this date, that has not occurred. I think we're waiting on approval to have that released for publication on the website as well as Savvy Citizen. So I would like to see that happen, hopefully tonight or tomorrow. In addition, I would like to recommend the council president that we have a subcommittee formed to carefully review the results and determine what actions, if any, would be appropriate for our community. The subcommittee should report its findings and recommendations no later than the March Committee of the Whole meeting.
I have something to report on this matter, sir. I'm not on your committee, but I had encountered Paul Gimbrack of Churchill, and he said they have formed such a committee and would like to work with us, recognizing that we're adjacent communities and have a shared border, and that dealing with the deer in isolation would be a pretty futile undertaking.
Right.
I've also reached out to the Allegheny Land Trust, which is the steward of the former golf course at Churchill, that 148 acres. And I know they are looking at a stewardship program that includes deer management. So I would like to suggest we include both of those entities to meet with our committee to make recommendations that can be done in common.
Okay. Mr. President.
I would suggest, we can't have more than 3 on a committee like that. Otherwise, it's Sunshine Act. So I would say you, Patty, and Bob forming that subcommittee, if you all 3 are willing to do that. And then it should be including research with PA, talking to our neighbors, and then you can just report back to us.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so we're doing that.
Okay.
Barb has her hand up.
Barb, I'm sorry.
Thank you. All I wanted to mention that I had also talked to a Braddock Hills council member, and they would like to be a part of the outreach program with communities. And if it's okay to go forward, once we get our committee established, to contact other neighboring municipalities or boroughs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item is EMS funding. That was a carryover from last month. Mr. Lawrence, could you speak to this topic?
Yeah, I think I actually did summarize this for everything, but I'll have a little follow-up. Just to let you know, sometime in the summer, the Woodland Hills EMS group tried to get all the borough reps together to try to convince them to basically put a tax on everyone to increase their funding. No one bit. I think that pretty much died. So there's really not much to say about that. I am attending their weekly or their monthly board of directors meetings, and it's sometime maybe in February or March. I'd like to talk to you guys about some of the things I'm seeing from those meetings, but that would need to be in an executive session.
Okay, thank you. Next item is an update on the school bus stop signs. I've been concerned that the school bus stop signs that were ordered on our behalf on October 22nd have not been received. I called the vendor myself to check on the order, and I found that the signs were ready, but they did not have the U-channel posts that were requested, as they were back ordered and not expected until sometime next year. They offered to substitute 2-inch square posts that are PennDOT approved and at the same price. I told them to make the substitution and ship the order ASAP. They said they expected the ship date would be early next week. Any questions on that?
No.
Mr. Thielacker.
Yeah, who's the vendor that's going to be shipping this off?
Municipal signs?
Oh, U.S. Municipal.
Yeah,
Very good. Thanks.
okay. Thank you. Next item is update.
Angelo,
Yes,
just, I think it would be good to run some of that through the committee rather than acting individually, you know, on your own. You don't want to run afoul of some potential snare.
what part of running it through the committee?
Well, just to say, hey, we're supposed to have this U post for these signs. What's available? The only thing, they're not available. The only thing we can put up is this other alternative.
Well, both, I take your point. Both posts are approved by PennDOT. I think it was just, the posts were just submitted just as a general idea. This is the post we wanted. I don't think it really mattered which posts that we were receiving. In fact, the U-channel posts are more expensive. I mean, less expensive. So since this has been languishing for several months, I took the initiative to say to get those posts changed over and shipped into us. So if there's any feedback, blowback on that, I'm willing to accept that. But
No.
Since it hasn't been taken care of, I've decided that it needed to be done.
I understand your position, and please don't take this as criticism. I'm just trying to be proactive that, you know, acting unilaterally in this position could lead to another step and another step, and then you've stepped in something and it's going to be difficult to get out of.
Well, since you don't know this, I did also put Mr. Morris and Mr. Erbaldinger in the loop to let them know that I did that. I got no response back, so I assumed that that was okay with both of them. Mr. President.
I think sometimes there are little executive decisions, I call them, you know, like replacing a post with some more expensive version of a post is not a big deal. I mean, he did the right thing. He reported it to council. So if council really has a major objection, we could always change it back. But I think some little decisions like that, it's not a major decision. And as long as we report it back to council, we can retroactively approve it, like tonight. I think it's fine.
I agree with that.
I mean, I mean, that is hard to say there's a dollar amount or so, but since we are substituting a lower quality post with a more expensive post for the same price, I don't see any reason why it would be controversial.
Mr. Burley?
I agree. I'm really glad that we do have something going on, Angelo, there, because we've been waiting very patiently for them to give us the direction that they're going to do. So I think we should keep on moving with it and get them out there so that we can get the caution and the protection necessary for our kids and senior citizens as soon as possible.
Thank you.
And just procedural clarification, sometimes when we're in a hurry about some decisions, I literally call everyone, and as soon as I have 4 yes, I tell Steve to go ahead with it. You know, sometimes Steve asks me for a quick decision. If I feel like it's above my pay grade, I literally call every one of you, and if I have 4 yes, then I tell Steve we can go ahead. So sometimes I do it via phone as well. But this kind of thing, I don't think require that.
Okay, thank you. Other item is we weren't paying for it either. It's being paid for by Allegheny County. Okay, next item. I'm bringing this up as a potential safety issue at Fillmore Road and the Route 30 intersection. As the construction is being completed, the company doing the work is installing what would potentially be a crosswalk in the median. And it appears that at least on the north side of the road, they're going to be doing the same thing. I think this is going to create a pedestrian safety issue if appropriate traffic signals are not installed. I guess we need to wait and see what exactly their intent is there, but just want to point that out.
Angelo, that was one of the areas where our active transportation plan recommended pedestrian crossways, partly because of the 2 restaurants on opposite sides of that street, and also partly because of the residential areas on both sides of that intersection. So I think we have backing in our transportation plan to substantiate a request for a signal light of some sort at that space.
Yeah, but that's
Mr.
not the
President?
point. I think Angelo is worried that they're installing a crosswalk without lights. Of course, if
No,
there are
what I'm
lights.
saying is they have to install the lights. I mean, we've
Yeah,
put
but I don't
that
know.
already.
I don't
We've
know if
already
they.
marked it as a dangerous intersection already.
That's what Angelo's point is.
Yeah,
If they're
exactly.
installing a crosswalk without lights, it is dangerous. And
Yeah.
we need to investigate and maybe object to it if they say we are just putting a crosswalk in without lights. I mean, Chief Williams, you can probably agree with me, a crosswalk across Ardmore without lights doesn't sound like safe to me.
Doesn't sound like a very good plan.
No.
So we need to ask PennDOT, probably Mr. Gillian, have him ask PennDOT what's their plan. It appears that you're going to put a crosswalk in. Are you putting lights on it? If they put lights on it, it would help with the whole left turn on Fillmore too. You know, lights would be actually a good thing there. But
It will also slow the traffic down because they'll have one more stoplight to keep people from
yes,
the.
but I doubt that they're installing like a 300. I think we got a quote once. It was like $300,000. It was some expensive thing to get lights on that intersection. So I doubt that they're planning to put lights on it. We definitely need to ask and timely object to that.
So I'm skipping around here, but there's, I guess I'll go down to the last item here I had.
Hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Steve Morris, do you have it on your list to ask Dave Gillian to contact
I
PennDOT?
thought we had McMahon on board for the engineering, transportation engineering.
Well, before we get too far
Hang on,
ahead here,
Hang on, I just want to finish that.
yeah, but it's one of my items that it's also on the agenda. That will dovetail into what you're asking, Steve.
Okay.
So it's the one that's the status of the PennDOT traffic study on Route 30. So this pertains again to that intersection on Fillmore Road and Route 30. We were told that PennDOT would not begin this study until Route 30 was completed. And I'd like to get an update in the next couple of weeks on the status of that study. So I'd like to request that Mr. Morris take appropriate steps to obtain that information. That would include asking about what is going on with the crosswalks that are being installed in the median. So hopefully that satisfies what you were going to ask?
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is update on the traffic study to reduce the speed limit on selected roads. This study was approved at the last council meeting. McMahon Associates was not contacted until this Tuesday, the 29th. Now, to my knowledge, they have not yet responded. I'd like to ask Mr. Morris to contact them again and set up a call to discuss this prior to the start of any work, and hopefully to get this done no later than next week.
Okay.
And let's see, the other item is tax credit
Yes.
incentive.
I would-
Yes. Ms. DeMarco brought this up, and I'll just summarize this thing. There's Act 172 in 2016 established incentive for municipal volunteers of fire companies and nonprofit emergency medical agencies to provide municipalities with the option to offer a real estate or earned income tax credit. Act 91 of 2020 also increased the allowable value of the real estate tax credit from 20% of the tax liability to 100% of the tax liability. So I guess the point here is that this may be something that we could bring to either Cal or bring to council and have the solicitor take a look at it and see if this is something that we can incorporate into an ordinance. It has to be an ordinance in order for us to take advantage of these two acts.
Can I speak to this, please?
Yes.
This
please.
was among the actions that were taken by the Pennsylvania Municipal League in order to help facilitate the recruitment of volunteer fire and emergency service personnel. It is a fairly minimal potential liability for us in terms of revenue because there are relatively few people involved, but it might be a significant incentive to our volunteer workers in this area. So I wanted to bring that forward as an option that's on the books already that we haven't exercised at this point to date.
Mr. President.
I think there's no need to go to Cow. I think we just need to take it to Steve Corbell and then let him get his opinion and report back to us.
Okay.
Are you going to send it to Steve K?
You asking Steve or me?
No, Steve.
Okay.
Yes, I'll send him an email. I'll
Perfect.
copy you both on it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, and the final thing I have here is a recommendation on new speed limit signs on Route 30. Work is winding down on Route 30, and to my knowledge, we haven't set any plan of action to install the signs. So I'd like to request Mr. Morris to set up a meeting with Public Works Foreman and McMahon Associates and myself and anyone else that would like to attend to go over the proper placement of these signs sometime next week, if we could have the call by then. These signs should be installed before the end of the month.
Jimmy was talking to PennDOT. Can Jimmy explain what he was doing?
Yeah, they have the work, so they're still working out there, Angelo. And I talked to the foreman, and they're trying to get all the curbs in before the real bad weather hits here. So, and plus they're doing some work down by Marion there. So it's still an active work zone yet. And their speed limit right now in the active work zone is 35.
Right.
I have all the signs, I have all the posts, and I'm just waiting for them basically to say, go ahead, we're basically.
Yeah. Well, I would rather take a more proactive approach and rather waiting for them to finish in where their work areas are. Since our entire length is now 35, we could begin the placement of the signs where they aren't working. So that way, when they are finished, we'll have fewer signs that need to be replaced. The reason I requested McMahon is that they should be expert in this area and they would know where the proper placement of all these signs should be. So we can at least get that ball rolling. That was my intent. Mr. President.
I agree with you, but I have one suggestion. I would like to add Chief Williams to a little committee as well. You know, like you had Jimmy, you should have him as well.
Well, the chief is more than welcome, of course. The placement of the signs is dictated by PennDOT. They decide where and when the sign should be placed. So it's kind of, you know, it's kind of a math thing. So many feet from an intersection, or from a turn from an intersection, so many feet for each either 1/10 of a mile or so forth, where the sign should be placed. So that's why I wanted to have that expert input into where they would be placed.
Sounds good.
I just wanted to chime in for just a second and say that the signs also, we need to have the signs warning of the change in speed limit.
Yes.
And they have to be set in an appropriate location based on that engineering and the PennDOT requirements. So we'd have to have those at each end of Route 30 to make sure that everybody understands that there's going to be a reduction in the speed. And again, you know, we need signs for that as well.
Yes, thank you. Jim?
Yeah, we have those also, Chuck. Yeah, I have them in the garage there.
Okay.
Sorry, one more.
Yes.
Technically, those will be in Wilkinsburg and I think Child Fund. Do we have to ask them for permission, or since it's a PennDOT road, we can just put them up?
I think that right where the right as you come off the Parkway, one sign there, we already have a sign sitting there that says
Okay.
Tree City
But
USA.
technically, okay, doesn't matter.
I mean, but
I
I think we could work that out.
Okay.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Okay, I'm just writing a note to myself to remind me. Hold on 1 second, please. Okay, I'm okay with ops and policy, Mr. Lawrence, if you're okay.
I'm ready to go.
Okay, I have a couple of notes here. First, a new item, just so you know, the national conference, the National Managers Association I belong to, ICMA, and by the way, that is also that also recognizes Forest Hills as a government that believes in professional management, et cetera, and good government in general. Their conference is coming in September 2024, and it will coming to Pittsburgh in September 2024, and a number of managers, including myself, are on the organizing committee. So I wanted to mention that to you in advance. Eventually, they'll be asking all area governments to support it by helping to get volunteers to come to work the conference, the registration, the maybe be at one of the hotels to serve the people who are staying there, to give them direction on where to go and what to do. Also, unless you object, I recommended that our building be one of the ones that's part of one of the field demonstrations for the conference, where those who are interested would be able to come to the building and learn about it, you know, the environmental aspects of the building, the geothermal, et cetera. So if you don't have any objections to that, since we were recognized by ICMA with that award, I'm going to continue to pursue that if that's okay with you. That again would not be till September 2024. But if that's okay with you, I'd like to put us in for that field demonstration. And then I'll get back to you later on other things they're asking for. They're not asking the borough for money. Don't get me wrong about that, by the way. They might be asking for assistance though with different things, but you know, encourage volunteers and et cetera. Is anybody objects to that at all?
I don't.
No.
I don't. Any maybe probably doesn't. Angelo, is that fine?
No.
Steve,
Okay.
there was a very thorough write-up about our borough building in the Pennsylvania Municipal League newsletter, the last one that came out. It was, I wrote the first draft and they edited it. It's very professionally written. If you wanted to submit that as an example for them to put in their program, I think that would be a good article.
Well, we would decide that. I don't need to have that. And plus, we already had that written up in the
Yeah.
PM newspaper magazine that they publish because we won that award. So they already have information on us. In fact, I wrote an article for PML just after we opened the building, and instead of putting us on the cover, they put Swickly on the cover. I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but regardless, I can push that. I don't have any problem with that. I just want to make sure you're okay with me doing that. The second item, thank you. The second item I have, just a reminder, I gave you a draft meeting calendar last month, and I did not receive any comments for changes. I attached it again here to the agenda so you could take a look at it again in case you do have any concerns or anything. But again, we have to advertise. You're probably already seeing some of the ads coming up in the newspapers from other communities for 2023 meetings. If you're okay with that, the only months where there were any issues possibly include October, or I had moved the dates back because the ICMA conference conflicts with that. Now it's in Austin, Texas. I'm not sure I really want to go to that. Not that I don't know, for a number of reasons, but in any case, just in case, I moved it back because it's easier to advertise it all at one time. If you don't like that, we can make a change there. And then December, this year you moved the December meetings up because of how close the business meeting would have fallen to Christmas holiday. I don't know if you want to do that next year, but if you do, take a look at December, because you would have to probably hold a committee meeting then at late November to be able to move that up. Those would be the only 2 months I think might be an issue, but I want to get that settled so I could have you approve a motion on December 14th to advertise the meeting dates. Mr. Erbliner.
Considering it's kind of like this year, the November business meeting is on the 15th. I think we should do the same thing, like have the first December meeting on the 28th, the second on the 5th, and then the business meeting on the 13th. Just move everyone up. Because there's a big gap between the November business meeting is pretty early anyway.
Does anybody have any problem with that?
I think that's fine.
So the first committee for December would be late November, the 28th. I'll do that. And then I'll also move the business meeting up to the week before, like I did here, which is the second Wednesday, I believe. I forget the date now. I don't know. I have it somewhere. I'm not looking at the calendar because I don't have it on my screen. So I'll do that, and I'll move the business meeting date up too. Anybody have any problem with October the way it is?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
All right. Committee vacancies, you know that you've already authorized me to advertise. So we're in the process of doing that. I wanted to remind you, though, that the Wilkinsburg Penn board member term expires December 31st. That's Ms. Braz. She requests reappointment if you're okay with that. That would also have to be the December 14th meeting. So I want to get confirmation that that's okay, or if you have somebody else.
We already okayed that.
Yep.
Well, I know, but I like to be safe and sure for a number of reasons.
Okay.
So I will have that on as a motion. Then I have a whole list of end of the year reminders that I always show you, and you can read the notes I have next to all the dates. The only thing I would call your attention to would be the December dates, because typically those are the things you do, and do budget and do fee resolution. By the way, the fee resolution will be on the finance committee agenda. So take a look at that, bring that with you. I'll try to remember to give you another copy of it just in case. If you want to make changes, that would, the finance committee meeting next week would be the time, or give them to me in advance of the finance committee meeting so I can do that. The tax ordinance doesn't need to be done, but a tax resolution does, since you're not changing the tax rate. And then, of course, the meeting dates. Yeah.
Would you be able to send us everything like by Friday, so we have time to look at it, like the new fee resolution, new budget? Would you be able to do that?
By tomorrow, I'm not going to be ready.
Okay.
I mean, I might be ready with some of it. We had a problem with some of the changes in the finance stuff, and Allison just gave me that. So I'm not sure if I can get that. Let me do this. I will get you everything that I can. I mean, I can always just send you the fee resolution. There's nothing different from what I already gave you. So I'll send you that. If I can get the budget done tomorrow,
whenever-
I will.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it would be nice for us to have a chance to look at it rather
Yeah.
than send it late Monday. But yeah, whatever you can. I don't know
There
if
are
there's
no major changes in the budget,
Yeah.
but I will, I mean, there's some minor things, and of course you changed the salaries because of
Yeah.
the increase of 2.5%. So I'm trying to get that fit in. We had a mistake though, though she had to check on. And also we have an illness in the office. So Allison's gone back to doing double work again for the last few days. So to try to keep caught up. So
Okay.
I'm,
Yeah, it would be nice. It's nice to have, but do whatever you can.
okay. So take a look at the December issues there. The Savvy Citizen shows a slight uptick in number of people who are following us right now. I don't have anything more to report on that. And under outstanding items, the Citizenship Award, both Mr. Morris and Mr. Hyde have been notified, and we've invited them to come to the December 14th meeting. I hesitated a little bit on that, as I explained to some people in an email, because I wasn't sure if a council member was talking to them or not. In the past, I've had that happen where council members have told me, don't contact them, I will contact the person who won. And nobody told me clearly about that, so I waited a little bit before I actually sent a formal letter out. But one letter did go out to each gentleman, and hopefully they will be there at the December 14th meeting. Yes, Mr.
I think you
Urban.
always do it anyway, but are you going to coordinate with the mayor that he's doing the proclamation, all that stuff, the good stuff?
Well, it's always a certificate
Yeah.
that we give them.
Yeah.
And I can show you, I already have drafts done that I
I saw it. I
ran
saw
past.
it.
Oh, you saw it. Okay. So
Usually Frank is doing it if he's around.
yeah, I don't think he ever does a proclamation along with it. I think all we do is give out.
Just
Yes, I
Just
think
a
that's it,
certificate.
but he does it usually. He
Okay,
reads it and stuff.
question,
that's all I have.
question on that
Okay.
subject. Would it be appropriate after the meeting on the 14th that, we have cake and cookies or whatever after the meeting in the council community room
For what?
for us?
We will have an executive session, yes, if it's for, yeah. I was wondering if it's like some public thing, because then, we would have to have an executive session afterwards, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
That does require those people to sit through the entire business meeting now. They don't usually do that.
I'm done, Mr. Lawrence.
Oh, okay. Go through this quick. Mr. Morris, you can help me. The RFP for the engineering firm, is that ready to go? Mr. Corbel's put that together?
Yeah, and I sent you that separately because I was advised after talking to Mr. Erblinger to do that. So I mean, he just has to input some dates into it. Both Marcus and I reviewed it and made some comments back to him, and I think he included those things in there.
And
Okay.
if council agrees, the date he really needs is as deadline, I think we should do end of January, like Friday 28th as a deadline. Because we have the holidays coming up. I think for people to do it properly, we shouldn't rush them. So I think we should publish it as soon as we can, like before the holidays, and then have the deadline to respond January 28th.
Do you want a motion on the agenda to do that, or are you just saying
I
go ahead
think
and do that?
we can give you the authority to do, like, to publish, but we probably have still a motion just to rectify it.
I think we need a motion to accept or to adopt an engineer, but I think we can issue a request for qualifications without a motion.
Yeah, we don't do that for trash.
Yes.
We just release an RFP. We're not binding ourselves to
No.
anything when we do an
No.
RFP.
Okay, well then, the only thing I would suggest that Kyle give the solicitor direction on finishing it then. He has to do a report anyway that night. So
Okay.
I would just have him, give him whatever direction you want to give him.
All right.
Okay. Director, after this meeting's over, I will forward to everyone the final version of the director job description that will be used to recruit. Just to give you a little background, I did ask at least twice everyone to submit any thoughts about the draft. Several of you did. Mr. Morris found a lot of things that he pulled some samples of other places. Finally had to make a decision about what was going to go into the thing, what not. just to give you some general guidance, best practices on these things is to keep them relatively high level. You don't need to go into the weeds on all the requirements on a job description like this. So I did do some trimming to keep it within bounds. So you'll have that. The other thing I'll mention, and this is more for your information, because Mr. Morris would be very aware of this, but this is particularly important as we may have internal applicants that we go through the recruitment process and document it very carefully. For instance, when the decision is made to formally open this job, we should make note in the job file that it's been opened. At what point we stop taking applications should be noted. And for any interviewing, particularly for this one, and I'm sure Mr. Morris should do anyhow, but anyone interviewing should keep appropriate notes that then go into the file for this position. It will be particularly important because we may or may not have internal applicants. So we have to really cross our T's and dot our I's or whatever it is we do with these things.
Mr. Lawrence, can I
So you'll get that. Yeah, sure.
kind of comment? My reason,
Yeah.
just so you know, for suggesting that that there should be some more specifics in the I'm sorry, in the Recreation Director draft, two of them, I'm sure you're aware of the first one, ADA requirements, so that we aren't in a situation where we have to take somebody that you may not want because we didn't structure that correctly. The other thing I want to make sure people are aware of, because this came up just after I was hired, and it was a problem, and a lot of people didn't believe it and didn't understand it, but realize that all jobs in government are also subject to veterans preference, not just police jobs. And so the more specific you are, the more detailed you are in a job description, the more likely you are to be able to get the person you want and not have to take someone because of something like that. Not to say that there's anything wrong with hiring a veteran, but I'm just saying that, you might not want a certain person, you might prefer another, but because both are equally competent, you have to take the veteran, not the other person. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on why I was bringing some of that up.
I know. I appreciate that very much.
I have
Yes.
basically just a few comments. So basically, if council/committee agrees, we should authorize Steve Morse and Jack to finalize it and then start advertising as broad as we can, like internet, websites, Post Gazette, and then also we kind of promised both our employees we will let them know. So whenever we have that PDF, final PDF, we should actually, Steve, could you please email it to Lynn and Cindy directly? I think it's common courtesy to let them know, look, here it is. And then there were some questions I saw on the emails. It is a salaried position and it won't get any commissions. It's not intended. We talked about that at the executive session, like probably 2 months ago now or 3 months ago. It was never intended to have a commission. It's a salaried position. It will be based according on it will be kind of a peer to Allison, but the salary is always based on experience. Obviously, if it's a person relatively new out of college, probably less than Allison, but it's somewhere in that kind of range. We don't know the salary yet. It's part of the negotiation, but it will be a peer to Allison.
Anything else on this topic? It's not. The next thing that came over is the decision to take
Do
down.
we have now the agreement of everyone to do that? We do that. Authorize Jack and Steve Morse to finalize it, send it to us, but also advertise it. We've been sitting on that for a long time. Because again, we need to do it now so we get applications in after the holidays and we can start interviewing all that good stuff in January.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good to go?
Yep.
Okay, then. Next thing is the tree on, what is it, 700 Lennox, the decision to move ahead to have that taken down.
No, it's pruning the roots. I read the thing. We're pruning the roots, right? Root prune according to ISA specifications and haul away debris. I didn't understand that we were taking that tree down.
there are two or two quotes there. One to take it down, one to prune it.
I recommend that we prune it first, please. I thought we had agreed on that.
We only agreed on getting the quotes. We did not agree on. I actually had the feeling the majority was actually against keeping it, but we can talk about it.
Well, I mean, we don't have that many large mature trees, and this is an elm tree. And I think it's worth trying to save that tree. And if you can, do root pruning and ground dressing around that, I think it would give the tree a chance to recover, its function. And I really feel frustrated when we take down long-standing, large tree canopy just for the convenience of having a sidewalk repaired. And I understand the driveway and the sidewalk are disrupted and they need to be repaired. But I think if you can do root pruning, we've done this successfully on a number of other trees where you've had mature, large trees involved. And I think this one would qualify in that category.
Angelo, did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's right now we're looking at, based on those estimates, to do all of the work close to $30,000 or $30,000 plus dollars. That includes, doing the. Let me look at that again.
That would be removing and grinding out the stump and redoing the entire sidewalk and driveway. I am recommending you take the first bid, which is page 1, that says that you would remove and root prune according to ISA specifications and haul away the debris.
Right, which
and
is.
the
which is
demolition
17.
debris from the sidewalk and the concrete. And I would recommend that we take that
Right,
option.
but that's $17,000
Yes.
alone. And in addition to that, you still have to repair the sidewalk. And
That includes the sidewalk.
that's another, how much is that?
That includes the sidewalk. Finish the concrete with trowel or light broom finish, pads and driveways on sidewalks, spray
Okay.
cure seal. That includes the whole thing at $17,680.
So I guess the question I would have with this is that we have a tree service working on sidewalks as opposed to a different kind of a contractor working to repair the sidewalk. So I would like to see this separated out. I think the people doing the trees should do the trees, and then we should get a quote to see what it would cost to repair the sidewalk. I mean, it's going to be a different.
Is Mr. Belay on? He's on the committee. Do you have any comments?
He's not on, I believe, anymore.
Okay. Anyone from outside this committee have any comments on this?
Can I add that if you're talking about doing the sidewalk, don't forget we do have a concrete specialist on crew. Now, that's one more thing you'd be adding them, one more work item you'd be adding to them to do, but I just want to remind you that.
Yeah, and Carl's
Okay.
Tree Service apparently, bid it as something they weren't planning to sub-bid. I don't know if it would be possible for someone you'd have to have a crew demolish the damaged sidewalk and driveway portion, then treat the tree root to, remove it from the place where it's incurring into the sidewalk, and then do the paving as a repair after buffering the tree root. I presume they would treat it and seal it so that it wouldn't kill the tree. I don't understand why, you would have to sub-bid it, because I think they do that.
I frankly would never go to a tree service to get my concrete done. I'm just saying that doesn't seem to be something I would do. I would go to a concrete specialist to get that done. So.
Mr. Lawrence, may I chime in, please?
Yes, please.
I looked at the estimates and what my thoughts are on this tree. If the tree's already 100 years old, I did some research on this tree. It could be another 50 to 100 years old. If the tree stays, whatever is done now will continue to have to be done over the years. If the roots are shaved or cut in any manner that prevents stability for a tree this huge, I would recommend not doing that. It breaks my heart, but the tree should be removed. It's too big, the weight of it. Imagine if that tree would now fall. There's all kind of wires around it. Everybody's electricity would be out. It's going to be a huge job to repair. The other thing we have to think about for fiscal responsibility moving forward, borough trees should not be selected anymore that have a huge high height like this. Under 25 feet is what the recommendation is. Now, we didn't plant this tree given its age, but I would also include that recommendation moving forward. But I think the tree has to go. Thank you.
I agree with everything you said, Barb, and also points out that this is an opportunity to make a decision that some trees are going to have to go, and it's time to basically diversify the age of the trees in the borough. And yes, putting in something smaller is more appropriate to that space. Might be the time to do it. Anybody else on the council have any comments on this one?
One of the things, this is, Jack, you can't hear me, but you can't see me, but this is Cecil Watkins speaking. This is Forest Hills. And I moved here because of all of the trees. And I think that given what's going on with climate change, whether you believe it or not, an old tree like this does help to get a lot of carbon out of the air. And we don't know, we could make these repairs and in another 3 years, we might have to do something similar. It's more likely that this tree could survive another 25, 50, even 75 years and then need to be taken down. But I think that the reason why I moved to Forest Hills was because it was Tree City, USA, and not because we cut down every tree at the first opportunity. So there are a number of other reasons why I think the tree should stay.
We only have 28 100-year-old trees in our community. And I really hesitate, to take down a 118-year-old tree is just a tragedy we should avert. I mean, really and truly it is, especially elm trees, which are difficult to see a tree of that type, of that size. It's a very elegant specimen of an elm tree. And I looked at that space. I don't think the root incursion is such a severity that removing that incursion of root is going to kill the tree. It's not it's less than a quarter of the circumference of the tree, much less. So I don't think the stability issue would be an issue because it has still a large part of its root, and an elm tree has a deep root. It isn't a real, like a locust tree has a kind of a superficial root mat. An elm tree goes down kind of like in a conical form. So I think it would probably be okay for the tree. And it would be maybe years and years and years before the sidewalk would be disrupted again by additional growth of that area of the root. I would really argue and plead for the life of that tree. I really would. I just think, it's a tree city, it sequesters carbon. It's an elegant specimen of which we do not have many large elm trees. I know when we were doing the centennial tree certificates, I think there was only one elm. There were a number of sycamores and pin oaks and one or two maples, but I think most of them were pin oaks. But there's only one elm tree that I know of this age in our town. And I don't know about inside the parks, but on the streets, because we had them inventoried for the centennial. And I just would plead that we keep this tree, please.
Okay. Does anyone else have any
Yes.
input?
One
Yes,
more.
I do too. Go ahead,
Okay,
Angela. I'm sorry.
I would say that based on what Ms. Martin said, being a master gardener and doing the research on shaving those roots, if that creates instability in that tree, if we have a microburst that come through Pittsburgh periodically and it takes down that tree, we risk losing somebody's life. We have a problem with the electrical lines. We have a problem with any of the structures that might be around that tree. And I think that becomes a big liability from a safety point and from, just a property damage point. I think while I don't like to cut down trees either, I think there comes a point where you have to decide whether it's you want to err on the side of safety as opposed to adhering to, this idea that we need to keep every tree.
Can I make a comment?
Marcus,
I agree
Marcus, did you have-
I agree with Angelo's concerns. The tree is not getting any smaller. If he cuts the roots, to me, it sounds like not safe. Eventually, it will come down one way or the other, and rather we do it controlled way, then it falls on those. I'm looking at it right now, Google Street. It's huge. I mean, it's a big, big tree. So I think we should just.
And it's a healthy tree. There's nothing wrong with this tree.
But if we cut the roots, it won't be as healthy. So I think I recommend we knock it down.
We can always,
I'm going to hold a
Replace
funeral
this
for this
tree.
tree. I think it's just a crime. Really and truly, it's a crime.
we can always replace this tree with a more appropriately sized tree. Nobody wants to take the tree down. It's in the wrong place. It's too big for the site, and these repairs are going to continue to have to be made. I'm sorry, but we can replace that tree.
Down the street, down Lennox, there are like some smaller trees. They look nice. I mean, so, and on that side, we don't have the electric wire lines, so it will be like nice to have a mid-sized tree there, not this huge one. So I think we should just decide out of committee that we shave it and take it down.
Well, I vote against it, and that's it. I know I'm going to get outvoted, but I vote against it.
All right. And Cecil, I think you're against it too.
I would vote against bringing this tree down.
All right. So it's basically 4-2. And Bill Burley's, I'm not sure where he is actually, but so it's 4-2. All right. I think we're good with that.
Okay.
I
What's
will
next
hold
on
a
the agenda?
funeral for that. I will hold a funeral for that tree, and mourn the loss of the carbon sequestration, the shade, and the contribution of a specimen elm tree to our community. I think it's just a tragedy beyond belief. I'm really sorry about this decision, really
We
sorry.
will plant another
We
tree.
can plant a little tiny tree, and in 100 years, maybe we'll still have a planet that it can grow on. Taking down a 100-year-old tree to me is an absolute unnecessary tragedy in this circumstances, unnecessary tragedy.
All right.
All right. Committee action items and follow-up protocols. This is Angela's initiative here. You want to explain it? No, I'll throw in my 2 cents afterwards. Angela?
Yes, I think this went around to everyone to take a look at. It's just to try to tighten up what we do and have some responsibility for certain actions so that we can identify responsible parties when there's an action in council, set up follow-up dates, ensure that any changes are communicated with the responsible parties, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think it just makes sense to have this in place so that we have some record of what we need to do, when we need to do it, who's responsible, and then report back to the council that the action was taken care of.
Thank you. Yeah, I think these are very good ideas. I've been on here for 7 years now, and one of the things I think I found most frustrating is we'll make decisions in these committees, and then we really don't kind of do a next step action follow up. And a lot of times then we forget we ever made a decision, and we'll relitigate it 6 months later, or we'll think, did we ever follow up with that? Whatever happened? And it happens quite frequently. It's nobody's fault. It's just that there's a lot goes on in these committees. And I think this is a really great idea. Did anybody outside the committee have any thoughts on this?
I mean, we talked about that before, and yes, I think
Yeah.
Like our business meetings, we have motions, and so it's like easier to keep track. But committee, we make decisions like we just did about Z3, and it needs to be properly kept track of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of times this stuff follow up. We have to take an action, and it just kind of falls through the cracks. So absolutely nobody's fault except that we get overwhelmed. Anybody else?
Well, yeah, I mean, this goes for committees. I mean, the committees can control follow-ups themselves, but I think it's important in council because even though we vote to have something done, sometime there has to be some follow-up. There has to be some responsible party that's going to do it, and it just doesn't get done or falls through the cracks and gets pushed aside, and we don't have any completion date. We don't have any documentation. So I think it's important to have that documentation.
Yeah, I think it'd be real good guidance for all of the committee chairs to do this. So if anybody doesn't have any other thoughts, I think we go ahead and make an alteration to the whatever we call this thing.
I agree. I think it's fine.
Okay, let's
Okay.
go ahead and do that.
To
Make the
committee,
alteration.
then I saw the draft. Can I make sure that I have specific language and where you want to insert it in the committee rules? Because committee rules have always been approved by council by motion, especially whenever there's a change. So I want to make sure that that's input in the right place. And I can then put a motion on December 14th if that's when you want to do it, unless you want to wait till January, you tell me. But I just want to make sure I have the wording correct as far as everybody's agreeing on it, and I can put it into a document so that people can see it at the meeting or just before the meeting.
Makes sense.
Anyone have any objections just moving forward?
No.
Okay, let's do that. Thank you very much. I think that'll be a great addition. Next thing is CMU student team request. This goes from Mr. Patty DeMarco.
Thank you. We have an opportunity to receive a team of 3 to 5 Carnegie Mellon master's degree students from Matthew Mihalik's class. His dad lives on Avenue F, and he grew up here. He's very fond of Forest Hills. And I was looking at some of the implementation issues that we have, especially in the business sector on our climate action plan. And I would propose that we secure a student team that would work with us as we're preparing for our microgrid and eco district project in Forest Hills. I understand that we have a business owner who's interested in putting solar on the 2 strip mall buildings on Ardmore Boulevard. Now that the Inflation Reduction Act has 10 years worth of tax incentives with no limit on the scale of the project. There are a number of investors that are finding this much more attractive than was true when it needed a budget reauthorization every budget cycle. What I would like them to look at is to identify implementation activities for our businesses to implement the things that we have in our business, in our comprehensive plan, in our climate action plan, so that we can help identify funding opportunities for them to implement those things and to engage with them for ways that we can build public-private partnerships as we're building our microgrid project, which we're going to be talking about with the Community Development Corporation, the Forest Hills Community Alliance, as well as with Siemens tomorrow for our own buildings. And then I'd like them to assist in identifying resources, such as grants, incentives, and so forth. There's a slew of stuff, and it's really complicated, and they can sort through that and identify what would be appropriate here, and to coordinate those efforts with us as we're putting our grants together for microgrids and EV charging stations that will be coming out of the work we're doing on our own buildings. So I am hoping that we can use some of this material as a basis for a marketing outreach for our own town, for our business community, and that we would possibly encourage one or more of the businesses in that district to join us in putting solar on their building, to join our solar buildings in making a more efficient, resilient, and sustainable electric system in our borough. We do not have to do anything but provide interface and oversight. We do not have to fund this. This is not a funded intern. It's a class project intern.
Who will be providing the oversight?
I will, and anyone else who wishes to participate. I think, the group that's working on the Siemens project would probably be interested, and the students would certainly enjoy meeting them.
I may have missed this in the application, but what's the length of the engagement?
Oh, okay. It starts in January and ends in April. So it's not lengthy. It's just a spring semester.
Yeah.
And they will do a service agreement with us, and the students will commit to the output, and we'll sit down together and refine, what they plan to do and what, goes on. I will go do a presentation to their class, and they will come to a council meeting or to whatever group meeting we have and do a presentation and so forth.
Anybody have any comments on that from the committee or elsewhere?
I assume the professor will do some oversight too, probably.
Oh, obviously. Yeah, obviously. Yeah. No, they'll work on this in class, and he'll give them guidance and so forth. But they need a contact point in the borough for answering questions.
I mean, like,
data.
We would engage a professor like that as a consultant. We would pay a lot of money, I think.
Oh, there's no way. We couldn't afford this.
Get him for free.
Yeah. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't want to run off and do this without council knowing about it and having a chance to engage. If you have any suggestions about any other projects, we have a possibility of getting an intern from the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs at Pitt. And we have a possibility of getting a undergraduate student at Chatham, although those have not worked out as well. Undergraduates are a little bit more work.
Yeah, they take a lot more care in feeding.
Yeah, they do. We've had some good ones, but we've also had some real interesting experiences with the undergraduates. The group that were all Chinese was a particular note. That was a unique experience.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're good with that. And then the last thing is EOS. What's this up to?
Now, this one is just for your information. It's the same project that I just talked about, where we're looking at putting a microgrid and an eco district together in our business area. I was asked by the Mon Metro Chamber of Commerce in the form of Tina Duche, who's a friend of mine, and Braddock Hills and Braddock Borough people, council people, to join them in a project where EOS Energy, which makes zinc boron batteries at utility scale, not for cars, but for a 15-hour storage and recharge for utility scale backup for solar or wind systems. There is a company called EOS Energy, which is manufacturing these in the former Westinghouse site, the RIDC Park in Turtle Creek. They are currently employing 250 people. They have orders through 2024 of over $500 million in demand. They want to scale up to 700 employees in a larger building in that RIDC park. And as part of a $30 million DOE grant, they want to have several pilot installations in communities And they've identified ours would be one, Braddock would have one, and I believe Munhall. And then they're looking for 1 or 2 larger scale projects, one of which would be the building they're occupying in the RIDC park. And another one would be something that is going into, I think Rankin. It's a big project that Duquesne Light is working on. So we would be providing our project that we're planning to do anyway as a place where they might put in a storage system for us, a battery storage backup to our eco district. And this could be a really good benefit to us because it would allow us to have a completely resilient business district with solar and battery backup for our own use. And as a pilot, the project value that we have already planning to do, which we'll be talking about tomorrow with Siemens, that will count as their match because they have to have a match. So we don't have to put anything into it that we're not already doing, but being part of this project will give us backup storage that we didn't have initially planned to budget for. So I would like to, and there's no guarantee we get this, mind you. Okay, we didn't get the RACER grant, but I want to send a letter of commitment to participate. This is at the letter of intent stage only. So we're not committing anything except stuff we're already doing. I just wanted your acknowledgement that we're going to go forward with this grant application. The final project proposal will be due in March. So if we make the first hurdle, the final project is due in March.
Question. Wouldn't this be
Question?
contingent on us getting the microgrid first?
No, because what it does is this puts a battery storage capacity into the planning for the microgrid. Duquesne Light is also a partner in this project, and they're already doing a grid capability assessment for us because of the inquiries that we've put in for our own building upgrades.
So this wouldn't actually go into effect unless we establish the microgrid.
If we don't have solar on in our business district, there wouldn't be anything to back up.
Right, okay.
So-
But now we were also talking about trying to do a microgrid between our buildings or Westinghouse and
Now, okay, our entire town is 1.5 square miles. A microgrid can go out as much as 3 square miles. So all of Forest Hills fits within the footprint of a potential microgrid. I've talked to Lindsay Baxter and Sarah Walker extensively about this, and we've been, talking about, well, could we put all of Forest Hills under an umbrella and have a community meter and bring everybody's power bill down if we have, more and more people adopting solar? And they don't have the rate structure for that yet in Pennsylvania. However, there is a docket pending on this subject, and I think I may file intervener comments there just as an independent expert. I'm not going to drag you guys into that unless you want to, but the way things are right now, we don't have the option to put a meter over the entire town. But we are a geographically compact enough area that our whole town could theoretically qualify as a microgrid.
Okay. Thank you.
If you want to know how
Okay.
that works when you do it full out, I had lengthy conversations with my colleague in Frankfurt, Werner Neumann, who is the energy manager for the city of Frankfurt. And he was talking about how when they adopted a feed-in tariff, they instantly had, logarithmic growth in the adoption of solar and wind and backup systems and anaerobic digestion for fuel cells because everybody had an incentive then to become a generator. And, we're a long way from having that happen here. So okay, I will keep you posted on the progress on both of these things, and I thank you for your support.
Okay, thanks a lot. I don't see anything else on the committee. Anyone, Angelo? Anything to
Nope.
bring up?
Nothing.
Okay, thanks everyone. Looks like we're done for the evening.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
I'm ending the
Bye.
meeting.
Good night.